Hi everybody, Jo here again. How are you doing? Today we're looking at blending. So if you remember last Tuesday I showed you how using ink that was already blended on a surface, and this is a watercolour tag, you could wet a stencil and get this lovely ghosting effect. And I did say I'd pop back this week and show you how I blended that ink. Because again, a few of you have been in touch, especially our new friends on here, and you've been saying that you're not quite sure how to do blending. So I have a little way, almost like a little recipe. Through teaching workshops for as many years as I have, I tend to watch how crafters do things and come up with my own way of teaching, and just something that I think could possibly help. If you're already fabulous at blending, by all means, you keep doing what you're doing. You know what I always say, I'm just coming in. If this is useful, take it. If not, just talk to me and just ignore what I'm doing. I don't mind. So I'm going to start with one of our smaller watercolour tags. And what I'm going to do is blend it and then show you how, with a blended background, we can make it into, very simply, create a lovely little design. I think an atmospheric sort of moody design. So to start off with, I've got my watercolour tag. Now, I would suggest choosing, I would go for 3 colours, but if when you're starting off you want to blend 2 colours, that's fine. For me, I find 3 works really well and it's a good way of teaching. And I go for colours that I know are going to be blending well. When you sort of get used to it and you've done quite a lot of blending, you can be more adventurous. But for me, why make it difficult? So to start off with, I've got russet orange. Now, as we know, orange blends beautifully into red. So I've got Emperor Red. Now, you could have a brown here. Often it's nice to have a brown. I've gone for orange for Flying Fig for a change. But yellow, red and brown work really well. Or you could go yellow, orange and red. Just choose colours that you know are going to blend well. Now also be mindful of how new your ink pads are, because depending how new they are will depend on how much ink you need to blend, and everybody's ink pads are different. So my tip is always, now remember we've got a non-stick mat here, and this mat is a blending mat. So my suggestion is put your tag or your piece of card on the mat. Let the mat do its job, it's meant to blend. So I'm blending in the lid, my lid won't move because it's a non-slip, and I'm going to start at the top. And I'm just going to blend some of the orange ink to start off with. Now, depending if it's a brand new ink pad, it will be very juicy, so make sure you do blend well in that lid. Mine's well used. And I'm going to come down about 1/3. Now, if you notice, when I ink up, and sometimes I'm coming straight from my ink pad because I know it's well used, and where I want the darkest of colour at the top, that's where I always put the first bit of the brush. And when I've got less ink, look, I blend down. And I know that sounds obvious, but a lot of ladies, when I've seen them at workshops, put the ink and start blending here. And they get a dark colour here and then can't get rid of it. We want the darker colour at the top, so only blend down when you've used some of that ink. Now, the next bit for me is a game changer. What I find works well is don't go for the middle colour next. Just have a try, come for your bottom colour, and this is the purple. And again, when we first ink up, look, I'm starting at the bottom where I want the deeper colour. And when I've got less ink on my brush, then I'll come up to about 1/3 of the way. And I'll do this a few times, so that darker edge will really darken at the bottom, and then it's lighter. And you're actually starting almost that blending process now by, can you see, having the darker edge here and coming lighter? Does that make sense? Where I'm going to blend those colours. So, sorry, this naughty throat. It's all part of my immune issues, so just ignore it. It'll come back. If you're lucky, I might lose it altogether, and then you'd have some peace and quiet. Oh, sorry, that's just what Carl says to me, but hey ho. Right, come in with the red. Now, a little tip here, start from the side. If you go straight into the middle, you might get lines. Again, I'm blending in the lid. And this is my newest of ink pads, or less used one. So it's quite a juicy one. So again, coming from the side, look, and at the bottom where that purple is, and blend across. And I can go over that purple. And when I've got less ink, you know what I'm going to say, then I can move up into that orange. So same thing, I'll start at this side, at the purple edge. And it's almost just thinking of how you're putting this ink on. And the way you put it on now, it'll almost start to blend as you're doing it. Now you may get on there's something in this tag set that I've got a line on all my tags there. It may be I've lent something on it, so they've all just, but you know what? I'm just going to ignore that. But the reason I want to show you is if you get an odd mark like that, it might be nothing at all that you've done. It could have been made in the actual process, but it's just part of what it is. But don't be very critical on yourselves. So I'm going to come in with a bit more here and then blend that up and just into that orange a bit. And the reason I do this middle colour last is because if you look, I can blend it into the purple and into the orange almost in one go. And if you look, that is nearly blended as it is. And also I'm picking this ink up from the side, look. So what I'll do now is come back with my purple brush and I'm just going to go in the lid, pick up a little bit, bring it from the bottom and then just come up into that red. And again, move that ink around. And then with the orange. And all I'm going to do is come in with the orange and move down into that red. And I'm working almost on the area where the orange and the red blend. And I just think I need a little bit more red there. So I'm gingerly going to pick a little bit up. Yeah, that's better. There was just an area that looked, but look at that now. And I think it's such a lovely blend. But my tip definitely top, bottom and then the middle. Lastly, I would always come in with my lightest colour and actually just go over the whole thing. And I find it almost just cements that blend. So really important, lids on. Now we've got this lovely ink here and we don't want to waste that, do we? So she says, do you know the hardest bit here for me is getting the tags out the packet? Right, we have one. So good old spritzer bottle. And let's pick this colour up. Now it might be you want to do some smooshing in your journal, if you've got any scraps of card. But I think this colour combo, yeah, I'm liking that. And I'm actually going to come in and add some. And that, I'm not going to force it dry. I've got a beautiful piece of kitchen roll here and I'm going to put that on that to dry. And then that's my extra. And you could probably do another. You could probably have 2 or 3. You know, one on a spare piece of card, one in your journal. But I hope you have a practice with this blending and honestly, just try that and see. Also remember, maybe have a practice blending through your stencil with the same 3 colours and just get that beautiful feel for it. Now, just to show you, because I don't want to come in and just go, this is how you blend a tag and leave you with it. We're just going to finish it off in a little design. And I'm not going to use a lot of stamps because I know a lot of you haven't got. You're only starting your journey and your collection. So I'm going to use 2. One's Wild Poppies, great favourite. And I'm just going to pop that here. I tend not to put my focal point in the middle. I just find it works better to the side. And then I'm going to come in with the field grass. And I've gone for a purple. Now look, that hasn't quite... But do you know what? Nobody will ever know. I would say I'd edit this bit out, but you know me, don't do editing. And I'm just dotting that in. I'm not doing lines, I'm doing dots. and it'll just blend in better. There we go, nobody will ever know. Monarch. I could stamp the field grass in black, but I just think if I bring some of the purpley tones, I think it'll work really well. I'm just going to stamp one over that area and then a couple up here to take that field grass just into the distance so it looks like it's blowing in the field. And we'll blot that because your Versafine Clair slow drying ink. Now it might be you just want to leave the background like that. You could add your water, but I'm thinking let's come in with a moon mask, and I'm going to turn it round because I'm coming in with Flying Fig, but I'm going to go down to a number 3 brush and I'm just going to pick the colour up from the lid. And I'm starting at the bottom where I've almost got some of that purple. And then when I've got less ink, I'll come round into the orange because obviously there's going to be more of a contrast with the purple and orange. So I want that lighter. So if I lift that, so can you see? Now, you don't want a strong line here, you want it to blend. So I'm just going to pick up a little bit more ink and just fuzzy that edge. So we get that lovely blend, it's not a hard line. And then what we'll do is we'll just come in and create a little bit of a cloud. And again, I'm starting at the edge, look, and we'll just create that little cloud going across and again, build it up. And it just adds a little bit of atmosphere. There we go. So what we can do, we'll just clean that up. Again, you could smoosh that. That could be even another one. White pastel pencil, and this is just your little finishing touches. You can use a gel pen. I'm just using my pastel. And at the bottom here, a little tip, if you haven't quite managed your stamping to be at the base, but also if you want a little more atmosphere, just come in with your black pastel and then just smudge it a little, and it just adds some nice atmosphere at the base here. Just smudge those edges and you see how it just takes your eye. And with the white, you can always just add a little bit of highlight look as well here. So again, just all those little finishing touches. And what we will do is, because this is a dye-based, a water reactive ink, I'm just covering my moon up. You can come in with your fan brush in your water pot and add some faux bleach in little splatters. Now, if there's any areas that you're not keen on, the splatters work very well to hide them. Now, you could have the splatters over the whole area if you want. I just like to keep the moon part without. Now, again, you can leave it and let it dry. I'm going to come in. The darker the colour, the more it will faux bleach and the quicker you'll get that reaction. It will look more impressive. So I want to dry mine straight away because I don't want it to be too much of a contrast. I want this to be almost like a pale orange rather than a white. But if you were to leave it longer, it would be white. And then finally, you know me, some little splatters with the yellow sparkly Posca, the glittery one, just especially over that field grass. And again, this will show up beautifully on these darker colours. Obviously, it won't show up as well on the orange. But you see how once you've created that blended tag, so I'm hoping that video really helps you. Like I say, blend your top colour, then your bottom, then blend that middle colour and blend it at the top and bottom together. And the best little tip for me is using that lighter colour to come over the whole thing to just blend it beautifully. So I'm hoping that helps and that you will have a play. So to finally finish this one off, I did some of our craft yarns and one of our little sentiment stickers. And wow, look at that. So that was my free background. Now again, you see, so that's given me another one. When that finally dries, I could even stamp the same. But there we go, I've got 3 tags just from having a play with my blending. So I'm hoping that helps. If there's anything else you want to know, just drop me a message. I love doing these little videos, especially if I know it's going to help you. And also, even if you know about blending and you're really good at it, maybe make a tag anyway, or challenge yourself. Use 3 different colours that won't blend easily and see how you get along. I can't wait to see. And remember, please share your work and tag me in so I can see. So you take care. Have a lovely evening. Oh, I think it's time I went. You look after yourselves. As always, love and hugs from me. Bye for now.